Hey guys, Chicago injury lawyer Scott DeSalvo here, and I'm shooting you another video on the topic of what is the number one dirty trick defense that defense lawyers and insurance companies play on every injured person in every injury case. I can basically guarantee you that if you got hurt on the job or got hurt in a car crash, fall down, nursing home abuse, medical malpractice, no matter what kind of case you got hurt where there's an injury, they are going to use this dirty trick, this tactic that they use. And you know why they use it? Because it's effective. And I think some lawyers know this, and even a lot of the lawyers who I know understand this. They don't do enough to defend the case against it and protect their client against it, right? So here's the dirty trick. They call you a liar and show that you're a liar without ever calling you a liar, right? What do I mean? Well, here's one that's super common. I had a lady who got hurt, hit her head, but it wasn't primarily a head injury. She banged her knee and ended up having knee surgery. But she also hit her head in the accident. And that's what she said when they asked us what parts of the body did she hurt. And we ordered the medical records, and guess what? The paramedics wrote in the paramedic report that the patient denies striking her head or any head pain or loss of consciousness. Then in the emergency room said, complains of headache, denies striking head. But what really happened is she did strike her head. So when the case went to trial, that's what they focused on. And so they called the paramedic as a witness, and they called the doctor at the ER as a witness. And, the doctor and paramedic, they help thousands of people a year. So if a defense attorney asks them whether this patient in particular told you they hit their head, well, the paramedic or doctor is just going to look at the record, and if it says patient, if there's nothing in there about them hitting their head, or if they deny hitting their head, the doctor or paramedic's going to say, no, they never reported hitting their head. Well, they don't know. They don't remember. And they only take down what's life-threatening in a paramedic report or in an ER report. But that's one example how insurance companies and defense attorneys take little details out of the case and try to build up something serious, right? And so you may be listening to that example and say, look, man, if I was on the jury or if I was the judge in that case, and somebody tried to defend the case that way, I would be like, look, man, that's not cool. But remember, they don't actually come out and call the injured person a liar. What they do is they line up 6 or 10 or 12 little details like that. So when you're on the witness stand, they're going to ask you, okay, so you had 6 months of physical therapy after your surgery, is that correct? Okay. So then they're going to ask you, well, what was your pain level on the beginning? Was it 4 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 8 out of 10? Okay, what about the next? What about the next? And I'm going to tell you, I've been doing this for 20 years. I have never seen a set of medical records where at every visit they document the parts of the body and the pain levels accurately. And especially at therapy centers or at hospitals where you're seeing different nurses, or at clinics where you're seeing different nurses and doctors, these guys, there's some subjectivity there. Like what they decide to write down is based on what they think is the most serious. And the problem is, if they're sloppy record keepers and they don't document something, it could easily look like visit 1, you're complaining of your back. Visit 2, you're complaining of your neck and your back. Visit 3, you're just complaining of headaches. Visit 4, just your back. Visit 5, your neck and headaches. Visit 6, just your back. Next visit, just your back. Next visit, just your back. Then all of a sudden you're complaining of neck. I don't know if this is really coming across right, but I'm going to tell you, defense attorneys and insurance companies are experts at taking those sorts of bad record keeping, faulty record keeping. And what's the doctor or nurse or physical therapy going to say? Are they going to say, well, I'm a crappy record keeper? You'll never get them to admit that, even if it's true. And since they have no independent memory, all they can do is testify off what's in the medical records. So what they do is, like, 1 or 2 of these things doesn't seem like a big deal, but if they can string together like 6 or 8 of them, that becomes their whole defense in the case. And the real defense is, look at all these things that don't quite add up. Is this person really hurt, or are they trying to make a mountain out of a molehill? Are they trying to ask for money that they don't really deserve? So the dirty trick that they use is to pick all these details, and they don't come out and say, oh, the injured person's a liar. What they do is they say, well, here's one thing that doesn't make sense. Here's another thing that doesn't make sense. Here's another thing that doesn't make sense. We're not done yet. Here's another thing, and another thing, and another thing, and another thing. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if it was 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 things that didn't add up, we might be able to forgive them and believe the plaintiff. But 7 or 8 things where the plaintiff says it's one way, but their doctor says it's another, the plaintiff says it's one way, their physical therapist says it's another, different complaints every time they go to the doctor, the plaintiff's case doesn't add up. I mean, literally, that's what they argue, and unfortunately, it works. So how can you fight this? How can you combat it in your injury case? Well, number 1, go to a credible doctor who keeps good records. But every time you go to the doctor, you have to make sure that the doctor is documenting every complaint. And that's really hard to do with a paramedic or in the emergency room. But if your medical records are inaccurate, you actually have a right under Illinois law, and in fact federal law, where you can request that your medical records be corrected if they are inaccurate. So it might be that you're going to need to do that and correct your medical records. I might shoot a video on how to do that, what to do if you find inaccuracies in your medical records. Because most of what they do, most of the problems they create in these cases come from the medical records. So that's the number 1 dirty trick. They basically try to call you a liar without coming out and calling you a liar. Hope that helps you. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.